Boo! Hello and welcome to a special episode of Mellow Labs. Why is it special? Because it's Halloween! Look, I've decorated! Isn't it beautiful? Anywho, I know what you're thinking. Thomas, what is the problem with Halloween? Trick-or-treaters. They're annoying. I try to sit there. We're just watching movies and whatever people do on Halloween. And then ding dong, kids downstairs. I have to go downstairs, give them candy. It just kind of ruins the flow of my night. Really, I'm an antisocial person who never wants to be interrupted. So how do I solve the problem of not wanting to be disturbed, but also not being that one neighbor who turns the lights off when you ring the doorbell? Simple. Candy dispenser. Listen, I'm fully aware that 90% of my videos are something dispenser, but I'm really trying to cut down, I swear. By this point, you should already know the drill. I have an idea in my head, and you need to see that idea. And I will show you the idea with the magic of whiteboard. So this self-portrait looking thing is going to be the thing that gives candy away. The eyes are going to be they're going to have servos in them, so they look around. I'm going to have the nose be a big button, and then candy will come out of his mouth. Let me think about how it's going to work on the other side. Okay, after some thinking, planning, and replanning, it's going to look like this. First of all, we've got an eye. The eyes will only look left and right. I do not want to be bothered with a third dimension. I do not have the time for that. And then I've got the nose, that's actually a button that tells the D1 Mini, yes, I'm using a D1 Mini again, which tells the servo with a flap attached to a tube filled with candy to open and dispense some candy. And all of this will be mounted on a piece of wood. Any questions? Good, let's go to the store. We've come to my favorite hardware store and the QB. Right, we need to get a few things. We need a piece of wood and a pipe.
This is going to be a montage of you touching wood, isn't it? Oh wow.
Sparkly iPhone splinters. Yeah. Honestly, that's kind of perfect. I wasn't expecting them to do them this perfect.
Instantly changes his mind.
It's shittier wood and it's cheaper, so it's better. Let's go. Pipes! Ooh, pipes. The wood, and I've got the pipe, and I've got a receipt, so I didn't steal it.
Now that we have all the components, we can go through the stuff I designed in CAD. Let's start with the candy dispenser. The pipe obviously goes in here. We've got a top bit for stability, but all the exciting stuff happens at the bottom. Here we have the flap that we super glue onto the servo, and the servo fits in here. And we've got a little wooden peg that goes in here to keep it all together on this side. And that just opens and closes. I made the flap a little bit thin on purpose. I feel like if I make it too thick, it's gonna cut like candy in half that hasn't fallen all the way down. And in this case, it will just sort of hold it in place, but it will still have all the strength it needs to like hold the candy up. Let's move on to the eyeball. The eyeball, I think, is relatively easy. Like I said, I'm only doing 2 directions. I'm only going left and right. I'm not dealing with up and down. So it's really simple. I've got this eyeball here, which has a ball mount and a ball mount that attaches here. And this bit is separate from this bit so that I can print this facing up and not have to deal with like having to fix overhangs and that. And this prints really nicely just facing normally. And then we have this little bar here that we attach to the servo with some glue. And some armature wire goes between here and here, and that holds it together and pulls it left and right. The only thing I'm kind of worried about is that there's nothing really holding the eyeball from like falling down. If it does happen, I could just put a rubber band through here and like attach it somewhere here on a paper clip or something. We'll see if it's a problem. I'm still learning this up. The rotations confuse me a lot sometimes. To finish it off, we've got this nose. The nose is super basic. It is just a shape, and then round here we have the mount that will screw onto the wood, and then the nose just goes into the mount, and then we put a little bit of filament through the holes to hold it together, and that gives the nose a little bit of a swing so that I can put a button behind it so we can press the nose, it does the thing, it makes the flipper go down and it releases some candy, and everybody is happy. So now let's go into making it. Sorry to jump in here like this. See what I did there? Anywho, did you know I have a Patreon? It's true, you could have early access and exclusive content on my Patreon. Please support me. I quit my job to pursue a YouTube career. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. Anywho, on with the video.
I started off by drawing the design onto the wood and then tracing it round with a thick marker. Then I grabbed my jigsaw and started to cut things out. Now, I know I might seem like a professional, but I've only used the jigsaw a handful of times. But I think I've watched enough of Hi, I'm Bob and I like to make stuff to know roughly what I'm doing. To cut out the eyes, I first had to drill a hole in them. It felt a little bit barbaric, but it let me put the jigsaw in so that I could cut around. To cut out the mouth, I did the same as the eyes. I just pre-drilled some holes and then went carefully around. Then it was time to cut off the chin, and we're almost done. Just a little bit of filing and sanding. Because I bought the cheap wood for this project, it ended up splintering a little, but it'll be fine when it's painted. And it was time to start cleaning up. I only left this shot in because it's really satisfying to vacuum up sawdust. And onto the painting. Because I didn't want to waste my partner's good paints on this project, I went out and bought some. Unfortunately, I bought the cheapest paint that was available, which ended up being a huge mistake because this paint was terrible. I put on multiple coats of the white paint, and it still looked about the same when it was dry. So then I pivoted, and I stole my partner's paints, and that looked good. I did the same with the green, but I only did one layer before I realized it was terrible and stole my partner's paints. Then I added some detail and shading just to make it pop a little bit more. With the cheap paints, I bought some metallic paints as well, and that wasn't the worst. I just had to layer it on very thick. I then painted the 3D printed bits for the face, like the ribbits and the nose. Unfortunately, the filament jammed in my printer as it was printing the nose and left a little bit of a gap. I didn't want to print another one because that would be very wasteful, so I just filled it in with some 2-part epoxy and then painted over it. It looks fine. Maybe one day I'll actually be good enough at making videos to keep things in frame. This is a constant struggle. I'm very sorry. After the paint dried, it was time to start attaching things to the face. First was the nose mount, which just screws in. Then I had to put in the button for the nose. First I cut a hole, and then I realized I don't have chisels, so I tried drilling the hole sideways, which didn't work, so I ended up just MacGyvering my way around it by using a knife and a saw blade. It looks ugly, it works, and you'll never see it. Perfect. For the divots on the head, I decided to screw them in. So I spaced them out, marked where I'm going to pre-drill some holes, and then just screwed them into the wood. Why didn't I use glue for this? I just felt like screwing around. Now the eye has finished 3D printing, it's time to assemble it. It's pretty easy. You just glue this bit on, stick this bit in here, pop the servo in here, pop this on that, and then attach it with armature wire. So that's the first eye assembled, and because I was raised on Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier. Now it's time to put together the candy dispenser. It's fairly simple. You just attach the flap to the servo, and then attach the servo into the pipe mount, and put in the supporting plug on the other end. You'll notice the servo I'm using is quite a lot bigger than the other ones. I just wanted to be strong enough to hold all the weight of the candy on top of it without breaking. Then I cut down the pipe to size and I put it in the pipe holder. No need to glue it down, it's friction fit. The only thing left to make was the tongue. I used one of these purple floor pads. They're very easy to cut and purple complements green very nicely, so perfect fit. Now that we've got all the parts, it's time to put it all together. I didn't actually think about how I'm going to make it stand up, so I had to very quickly makeshift some legs. Works perfectly. First, I attached the eyes with some hot glue. Then I moved over to the front where I put the nose in place. The nose hangs off of the mount I installed earlier with a little bit of filament. It goes in one side, through the mount and out the other. Very simple, useful trick, and it gives it that little bit of a swing that I need to press the button. Then, back at the back, we're attaching the candy dispenser to the board with hot glue, my favorite. And then to finish off my spree of hot gluing, I attached the tongue to the candy dispenser and pointed it so it comes out the mouth. Now that just leaves the code, and honestly, there's not a lot here. Press the button, servos move around. So instead of watching me calibrate servos for about an hour and a half, here's me not realizing that the camera is recording and jamming out to some Toby Nigwe.
And here it is. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, the eyes are very loud. Let me just That's a lot better. I did not realize how loud it's going to be until I put it all together. I'm actually just going to change the code so that the eyes only move after the nose is pressed. Speaking of the nose, it gives you food. What more do you need? I'm totally keeping this after Halloween. I'm probably going to change its appearance, but who doesn't want a snack dispenser? By the way, I ate a lot of candy in the process of making this, so I have to film this very fast before my face just completely fills up with acne. So thanks for stopping by, and see you next month. I didn't do my outro gimmick, so I made a mistake, and now I'm tangled in bats. Send help.